Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope this video finds you and your family doing well today. Uh, Today I'm gonna be talking with you about whole grains and why I have switched my family over to whole grains and why hopefully you will consider it as well. So I think an important place to start when talking about whole grains is what do we even mean when we say whole grains? There's a lot of words thrown out about whole grain, whole wheat, freshly milled flour, uh, and people aren't really clear about what that means sometimes. So when I talk to you about whole grains, and that's typically the words that I try to use is whole grain. I am talking about freshly milled flour from my kitchen, from the wheat berry, and using that whole grain product in my cooking and my baking. So that is what I mean. I'm using the entire wheat berry in my baking and I'm not doing any sifting or anything of that nature. Um, so that is my definition. Some people use the term whole wheat, and that's fine too. Whole wheat, as far as I can tell, does not have a legal definition. So that is why companies commercially can get away with selling these products, these bread products and such that say or claim whole grain, or why you can go to the store and purchase a flour on the shelf that is labeled whole wheat. Sorry, I think I said whole grain there, but so you can go and buy a product or a flour product that says whole wheat. And it's kind of trickery as far as these companies have figured out loopholes on how they can say how they can make you think that you're getting a whole, natural, healthy product without actually giving you a whole, healthy product. So, whole grain, I'm talking about the entire wheat berry with all of its nutrients in there, whereas whole wheat is going to be more talking about a commercial product that you would buy at a store that's not whole and not in its natural state. When commercial products started to become available on our grocery store shelves, whole wheat became a trick term where we could skirt around the truth and say, well, it isn't whole grain, but it is whole wheat, as in not the whole wheat berry, but it's made wholly of wheat and it has no, say, corn or barley or another product, another grain product. It would be whole wheat, as in all wheat product, but not whole grain, as in the entire grain. So now that we have defined what I mean by whole grain and whole wheat and freshly milled and all of these terms, now we can talk about what is wheat. So we'll talk briefly about the components of what makes up a wheat berry. So when we mill our flour at home, what is it exactly that we're getting? So we get whole wheat berries that look basically the way they're grown out in the field, but they have had the hulls removed. So most of your modern wheat products, they're bred to really come out of that hull very easily during processing. They're shaken usually, and then they'll just come right free from that hull, and then you get it just like that without its hull. And some of the more traditional ancient grains uh, sometimes can take a little bit more processing to remove the hull. But other than the hull being removed from actually coming off the plant, we have the entire berry, and that berry consists of the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. So when you grind your flour at home and your home mill, you're going to be processing that entire wheat berry, and you're going to have all three of those uh, parts in your flour that you can then bake with. So you have all the nutrients that's available in that berry which is essentially the seed. So there are a plethora of nutrients found in that wheat berry. There's vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin B complex, calcium, iron, phosphate, just tons, a plethora of amazing vitamins and minerals that are found in the wheat berry. And when you grind that freshly milled at home, you get all of that nutrients, which will, as it sits, diminish as time goes by. So that is why we mill it fresh and use it right away. So the flour or the bread products that you would buy at the store, regardless of whether they claim to be whole wheat or an all-purpose variety, you are getting a product that has been sifted. So let's talk a little bit about how those products came to our store shelves. Right around the year of 1878, I believe, yes, 1878, the first fully automatic roller mills came out in the UK and then would swiftly make their way over to the US and I'm sure all over the world. And these rollers were all about speed and efficiency, getting the flour milled and out to consumers as quickly as possible. And they worked fabulously. However, the germ would gum up their rollers because the germ is very fatty. So that germ, that is what is alive in the product. It just was messing up their rollers. So they had to learn to sift all of the brand and the germ out of the flour product. So what you are getting then as all-purpose flour is the endosperm and nothing else. The endosperm is basically carbohydrate and protein. There are some amino acids in there that are good. However, it is virtually devoid of any sort of vitamin or mineral. So when you are buying that whole or the all-purpose flour products from the store, you are getting a dead product. There is nothing living in there. After these rollers became very prevalent everywhere in the world, the government did notice that people were getting malnourished. Babies were being born with deformities, and people were dying, and people were ill, and they had concluded that it was because of the nutrients that they had lost from their wheat. They had tried to tell the millers, we need to put these, the wheat, the germ, and the bran back into our flour products. And while those companies were already making money off of their new products, as they sifted the bran and the germ out of the flour, now they could sell flour and food for livestock. So now they had a double income. So there was no way that those millers were going to go ahead and put that back in and lose all of that money. Because in the end, it is about money and not about the health of the consumer. So that is basically the short story of how we ended up with these lifeless products on our grocery store shelves. The story of wheat and how we became reliant on all-purpose flour really reminds me a lot about our dairy industry. And, now instead of getting raw milk full of nutrition, we are getting a dead product with synthetic vitamins put back in. And that is exactly what happened to the flour industry. We get a dead, void product with manufactured vitamins put back in. Well, now that we have gone over our basic definitions and a brief history of grains and how we got our grain products on the grocery store shelf, I'd like to share just a little bit of my personal testimony and why we switched, other than, of course, the things that we've already talked about, the corrupt government and milling practices that kind of changed everything, along with the obvious health benefits. Our journey with whole grains started roughly 10 years ago, actually. So, my husband bought me my first grain mill roughly 10 years ago. My children were probably around kindergarten age, around 5 years old, somewhere in there. And we got a hand mill, and you can actually still get that mill today, called the Wonder Junior, made by Wonder Mill. And it is an excellent mill, probably the best hand mill on the market today. So we decided to get a hand mill because we wanted to be able to use it no matter whether we had power or no power, and something that would last long term. We wouldn't have to worry about, a motor or anything like that breaking. And also, this was about 10 years ago, so there really wasn't a lot in, available to the home cook for motorized mills at the time, at least that we were aware of. The internet to us was not used all the time like it is today. It wasn't something that we would just pop on YouTube or anything. I'm not even sure if we used YouTube back then at the time. So um, my husband had actually heard about how great whole grains were for you and told me about it and bought me a mill. Um, so that's kind of how it became a thing. However, I didn't have a plethora of information just available at my fingertips. Back then, like I said, we just didn't use the internet like we do today. So I really didn't know the details about what made wheat better and what the difference was. And uh, because I had a hand mill and it would take so long just to mill the flour, it wasn't something that took over my life at that point. It was something like, well, for kind of a special occasion, we'll get the mill out and we'll make, this bread or dessert or whatever it was, maybe play around with some sourdough and stuff like that. But it wasn't something that I realized and really knew the details of why I was doing it and why I was making my life so complicated uh, in order to do that. And so it kind of was one of those special occasion things because it tasted really good, because the flavor was just so potent in those freshly milled grains that so it was kind of a once in a while thing or a fun project, a homeschool project to get the kids involved in cooking and baking and stuff. And so it wasn't something that I went ahead and switched. And then the years went by. We moved a few times here and there. We moved all the way across the country. And that mill just stayed kind of in its box that we moved in. And it never really had a place in the kitchen. It's one that clamps onto your countertop or tabletop, and I never had a good place to put it. The countertops never are right to where it could clip on, and our table, we never had a table that had a square edge where it could go on. And so it was kind of one of those things. I didn't have a good place to use it, and so it stayed tucked away, and I still own it today. So I do have it, and it's more of one of those prepping type items, you could say, that it's hanging out in our food storage pantry in case there's ever a circumstance where we need to mill flour and have no electricity for whatever reason. And so I still have it because it is definitely of an heirloom quality. It will last you a lifetime and many more. However, now we did go ahead and, because I now have the internet at my fingertips, and I have researched and read books and watched videos and had a lot of information coming my way. And I was convinced this is definitely the way to go. It is the best thing that I can do for my family, is to not only make homemade bread products, but from the best possible ingredients, which, in my opinion, after all of my research, is that is to use freshly ground whole wheat flour. And so we made the switch full time. I have not served any all purpose flour products or anything like that in the house ever since. And we could not be happier about it. So my mill actually, it lives right here on my counter uh, for the rest of its life. It is a Sana grain mill, which is basically a replica of the famous Como grain mill. I wasn't super particular on the mill. I just knew that I wanted one that would grind mill very fine flour and something that I was able to leave out on my counter full time because I knew that I would be using it often. And I have used it every single day since my husband got that for me. So it has earned its place right here next to my mixer, my stand mixer. And um, my husband thought, well, if it's going to be on the counter, we should get one that looks nice too. And so we got this one. It is the wood exterior, so it looks pretty on the counter and it gets used all the time, every day. So it is basically a replica of the Como mill that became super, super popular. But then during COVID, I think it was, that nobody could get their hands on one. They were always back ordered. And the Sanas, from what I understand, they're made in Germany, I believe, and they were made on in the same factory as some of the Como mills. So that's why they have such a similar look, other than basically the nose piece where the milled flour comes out there. And I have been very impressed with it. I have no complaints. It does its job, and it has done it, like I said, every single day since. So yes, perhaps in a future video, I could go over and do more of a review on the mill. But um, for now, I'll just let you know that's the one that I have. We purchased it on Amazon, so I will go ahead and make sure to leave a link to that mill if you guys are interested in that. Um, but so when we switched, uh, there was kind of a time period of, say, detox is the only thing that I can think of to put it, to basically side effects to switching um, over to full time. And I think some of us had no side effects, and then the rest of us had all differing side effects to that. So, a side effect that I had while switching over to whole grains was that I was getting headaches. So, I don't really get a lot of headaches nowadays, but when we had switched, I was getting pretty regular headaches, and I can only attribute that to detoxing of certain things that maybe I was consuming in because of the all-purpose flour products, maybe the synthetic vitamins and stuff that they put in there. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I was getting headaches for about 2 weeks after switching. And then I haven't really had much for headaches since. When I do get a headache now, it's a tension thing, usually in my neck and shoulders, more from sleeping or doing some physical work. So I haven't had any sort of headache related to that since. So I do believe that that was a side effect of switching. Also, we've noticed that my husband's allergies have definitely improved. He gets seasonal allergies, which started not long after we were married. He didn't have any sort of allergies growing up or anything, and we were living in Wyoming. And it was maybe 2 years maybe after we had been married, and then he started to get seasonal allergy symptoms. And we have never had tests done to know exactly what plants or pollens that he has a sensitivity to or anything like that. We just know that every time everything starts blooming outside, he has got tons of mucus and things going on, and especially at nighttime. So that has been kind of a struggle every summer for him up until this year. And so far, he's had little to no allergies. Um, we had an early spring here in Michigan. It's been very warm, and we would be driving, and you could see the pollen in the air falling from the sky and blowing from the trees. And I said, wow, I can't believe that you're not like blowing your nose and coughing and stuff like you normally do. And he said, yeah, I don't know if it's the wheat or what, but I haven't really had any seasonal allergy symptoms. I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. But we are not purists by any means. So even though I've been cooking nothing but whole grains here at home, there are times when we are out and about, or my husband is working out of town, and so he has to stop somewhere and get food. So, which usually is trying to get whatever's cheapest when you're out and about. So, it might be fast food, it might be gas station food, it might be stopping quickly at the grocery store and grabbing something, from the deli or something like that. And so he does consume other products that have all purpose flour and store bought commercial flour and stuff like that. So he has had a small bout of allergies for a couple days, and then it goes away again. We have pine trees behind our house, and one day we were out there gardening, and he was working on some projects that he has, and I turned and looked in the wind, and just yellow clouds came down from those pine trees. I couldn't believe it, and I thought, holy cow, I can't believe that we're not all coughing and sneezing and stuff from all the pollen. And yeah, so it seems like it may be helping in a very good way the seasonal allergies in the family. So that is a definite plus. Of course, I don't know for sure if that is attributed to it because we haven't tested anything, but it definitely seems like there may be a correlation there. So if you struggle with seasonal allergies, make sure you pay attention to that when you make the switch. Also, my son is a teenager, and he all of his life has had eczema. So it was something that he's had since birth. It showed up very quickly after he was born and has been a thorn in all of our sides his entire life. It's something that affects him from head to toe. He gets very, very itchy. We used to have to keep him in footy pajamas at night and put mittens on his hands. And we've tried every oil and cream and lotion and natural cure and everything imaginable on the planet. Literally, if you if you have a child that has struggled with eczema, you are probably in the same boat as me, and you have tried every store-bought product that there is, even though you know that it is more of a gut issue. We took him to a homeopath, a naturopath, who ran blood work on him to find out what food sensitivities he had. We stopped giving him any of the foods on the food sensitivity list. However, we knew that those could change. It's not like a food allergy. A food sensitivity can change at any time, especially if you're consuming a lot of one product, that you can adapt and make a sensitivity to that. So it's kind of an ever changing struggle that you just kind of try to minimize the symptoms and try to eliminate those kind of outbreaks the best that you can. And especially on a small child, it can be really, really difficult to do. So he definitely still has eczema and eczema symptoms now that we've been on whole wheat or whole grains. However, he did say to me one day, I'm still itchy, and I still, he'll scratch in his sleep and wake up with some scabs or whatever on his arm or on his elbow and things like that. And he'll say, I still get itchy, and I still have, these scabs and stuff. But I found that my skin heals so quick that he couldn't believe how fast he would wake up, and have some scabs from itching overnight. And later on that night, he would notice, wow, it already looks healed up. It already looks like it's basically gone. So I think possibly not only just in general, the excellent nutrition that you're getting from the whole grain, the way that God has created it to be, But just the vitamin E itself and some of those other vitamins, they're just excellent for the skin. And so if you have a skin problem, definitely pay attention to the changes that you get. If you see any changes in your skin when you switch to whole grains, because that's definitely been something like, wow, the skin has really healed quickly. And yeah, so we have definitely all been seeing benefits, and that is why we definitely want to continue this as a permanent lifestyle change for us. And I really, really enjoy baking with freshly milled flour. I have been baking for many years now, kind of off and on. Some things I would still buy. Sometimes I would still buy bread. Sometimes I would make it, but when it was all purpose flour, it didn't seem like it was that much different than what I was getting at the store. So I would buy still stuff and buy and do homemade, but now that I'm making all of my products homemade, I refuse to buy bread from the store. I refuse to buy hot dog buns or hamburger buns and any sort of dessert. I'm going to make it fresh, homemade, and with the best possible flour that I can get. So I definitely really, really enjoy that, and I enjoy the results and the beautiful product that I'm serving my family, and we also really, really enjoy the flavor as well. I would say if you are not a seasoned baker, that you're gonna probably want to start out small, and I would say probably don't even try sourdough products until you have mastered just your regular yeast products. I would also say I don't feel like you need to serve nothing but ancient grains. Ancient grains tend to be a little bit more challenging. So I would say don't be afraid of your modern wheats. And maybe I'll even make a video in the future about that because you will see a lot of propaganda online about how you need to be eating just only einkorn or only ancient grains. And that's just not really the case. There, in my opinion, is nothing wrong with modern wheat products, assuming that they're organic and things like that. But that's a whole nother video in itself. So I would say don't be afraid of your modern wheats and don't try sourdough right out the bat. You're going to want to move a little bit slowly. And once you learn what you're looking for, you'll be set to try anything. And I think to wrap up this video, I just want to share a few resources with you to help get you started, things that I used and helped me to figure that all out. Now, also, I would say real quick that I did, because I'm a seasoned baker, my husband and I did take a trip down to our Amish store where they sell bulk food supplies. And I bought several different kinds of wheat berries to use, and I've used modern wheats, hard white, soft white, einkorn, kamut. Um, my favorite probably is spelt, and so I've used several different kinds of grains and have those all here to play with. And I have basically used recipes from two sources. And so I want to share some of these resources with you guys so that you can get started. When my husband purchased my mill, he found this book, and probably if you're watching videos of whether you should switch to whole grains or not, you've probably heard every single one of them say Sue Becker. Um, Her name and her husband have the Bread Beckers business, and there's tons of videos here on YouTube that they have excellent, thorough information if you're still looking. So look up Bread Beckers or Sue Becker, and also if you're ordering a mill, just go ahead and order this book as well. I'll leave it also in a link there for you so you can find it easily. My husband bought this for me because he had seen it recommended so well, and I use tons of recipes from here. It's very, very good book and lots of standard recipes that every household is probably going to use the majority of them. So the Essential Home Ground Flour book by Sue Becker, I definitely would recommend that to get. And also, now this book I recommend because it was very, very cheap. It was only a few dollars. And I haven't used any of the actual recipes in this book because some of the ingredients, I don't even know what they are. It's a very old fashioned book. I believe that the original book was written um, about 1947, I think. So it does have some older fashioned ingredients in it. And so I haven't used the recipes, but it has a really interesting history of grains in the front of it that's very interesting to read. And this was written actually by Mildred Orton. Her and her husband started the Vermont Country Store, which is still in business today, run by their family. So definitely, if you are looking to just read up on your grains, if nothing else, just reading up on the history, it's very interesting little book. There's my timer. My bread's done. So if for nothing else, get this book for the history of wheat and how mills came into existence and things like that. It's really, really interesting. And it's a cute book to have um, as a conversation starter for people to see, oh, what's that all about? And whole grains, yay. So I enjoyed the book, and for the price, you can't beat it. So there's some, and if you're interested in some old fashioned recipes, it could be a lot of fun experiments. As far as online, a great resource that I would definitely recommend is a shout out to the YouTube channel, Grains in Small Places. She has excellent, thorough, detailed recipes on her YouTube channel, and you can also go to her website, Grains in Small Places, where she has tons of recipes. One thing that I really love about her recipes is how she gives them in weight. So I don't have to convert the recipe from wheat berries to flour. A lot of recipes tell you how much flour you need, but they don't tell you how that translates to wheat berries. Um, so I really love that she puts the weight of flour in there, which is the exact same weight that the wheat berries will be. So you can just weigh out your berries and you know you have the right amount of flour. So I love that. I really like to weigh my ingredients versus measure them by volume. So check out Grains in Small Places. There are some other YouTube channels that you might like, such as Grains and Grit. She gives some nice recipes, and she always references to a biblical perspective on the grains, which is very nice since I'm also a Christian, and I definitely have the same viewpoint there. So hopefully that gets you guys started and helps to at least start sparking some interest, and you guys can look into it a little bit more thoroughly. And if you make the switch to whole grains, I would love to hear what you had to say in the comments below. I would love to know your experience. If you've already made that switch and just enjoy hearing other people's uh, point of view, then please let us know what you think about being on whole grains as well. But I hope that this video was helpful to you. I did try to take some notes and kind of stick to a more structured uh, kind of guideline this time. I do get off on a tangent, and I tend to forget things that I wanted to say or include in my videos. So hopefully this was a little bit more better organized for you guys. But if I left something out that you're wondering about, please make sure and just leave any questions or comments below, and I definitely will try to respond to any of your questions. But that is where I will leave this video. I hope that this was helpful to you, and I hope that it was a blessing to your family. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will subscribe and like these videos and hit the bell for future video notifications. I will be sharing some recipes that I have kind of changed and come up with to change some of my old favorite recipes. I have modified for being able to use it with whole grains and some with sourdough and things like that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, make sure that you stick around, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for joining me, and God bless you.